Hi, everyone. Welcome to Within the Cauldron, our second Q&A with the Meet the Witches. So this is the second set of introductions, kind of a meet and greet with the founders of Within the Cauldron. We started off, as some of you may have already know, on Facebook, doing semi-monthly, bi-weekly discussions, open discussions to bring the community together as a information swap, knowledge sharing, build your fellow witch type series. And we have since grown. We're starting our podcast series. To subscribe, go to YouTube, look up Within the Cauldron Glow, and subscribe, and you'll be able to catch all of our segments. Now, without further ado, I'm going to bring up our fellow witches, Nico, Gypsy, and Amy.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
And then the two that you guys haven't met yet are the ones in the catty corner to me here. We have Amber and Amiee, and these are the daughters of Miss Gypsy down here in the corner and my cousins.
So we're a family of witches, you guys. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go with some Q&As for Amy and Amber. And maybe Nico and I would probably answer too. So, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Who would like to? Nico, why don't you just do the first question? You're good at that.
Right. So, Amber, we'll start with you. What sparked your interest in witchcraft and magic?
Let's see. Well, I mean, to be honest, I was raised in it. So from the very beginning, my parents they were studying, they were practicing. Shortly later, when I was about 6, they started a coven up. So I think the interest was always there. I don't know a significant moment of when did it start, because it was always there. And I would say what drug me in further was like a catalyst. Sitting within my parents' coven, their rituals, that moment where you wanted to participate, but you were so little, and just having that kind of I need to learn this. I want to learn this. I want to contribute to the magical flow that's around me. And then I would say what really pushed me in further would be attending circles, not outside of the coven, with the community in Iowa, joining hands with all these different types of people, all these different practitioners, and having that moment of this is what I want. This is what gets me. I'm one of those witches that really loves ritual work, and having that moment of wanting to add further into the energy flow. So just that, I guess that was it. Just being with people and feeling the energy flow within, and then knowing that I'm a part of that and they feel me too, just as much as I feel them, and wanting to dive further, I guess. I think that was the catalyst to keep going. Community.
Love that.
Yeah.
And Amy, what about you?
So for me, it's always been every memory I've ever had since the very beginning has been in ritual. I remember being a young child laying underneath my mom's altar, and all of her animals and my little sister with me, and we're all cuddling, and they're doing rituals and chanting, and the energy that I felt is an energy that I can't explain. I can't put into words. I can't describe. It's always been around me, and for me, it's always been magic has always been everywhere ever since I've been, since the earliest memories. My dad used to tell me the wind that would hit my skin, and Amber knows, she's laughing because she knows, because they tell us all, and my mom's probably going to cry, but it's true. It's always been around us. It's the grass with it. beneath you. It's the wind that blows through your hair. It's everything, you know?
Hmm.
And for me, that has always driven me, you know? I do a lot more spell work than Amber does. And for me, she likes these grand rituals. And I am very like my lifestyle, everything that intertwines in my life is a ritual to me. It's the getting my coffee in the morning and stirring my intentions, and the food that I cook. I have my intentions cooked within it, and it's just everything for me. And even with my children, like the clothes they wear, for me, I do a lot of glam magic. So like even the nail polish, the eyeshadow, the clothes I put on a daily, it's just everything. And I think a lot of witches don't understand that your magic it doesn't have to be this giant grand ritual. It could be as little as you putting your nail polish on or your shoes or even tying your shoes and doing a little chant. It's just everything, or even thinking. You don't even have to say anything out loud. The most powerful tool you have is yourself. So for me, it's just all of that. So that's what's always driven me is the energy I felt. And for me, it's more of a lifestyle. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's
Yeah,
pretty much how I feel about it.
and I think for me, what sparked my interest in witchcraft and magic, partially with religious trauma, to be honest, where as a queer person who was raised in the church, that I was not really accepted. And I found through some friends that were into witchcraft and Wicca that they were very, very accepting people. And we started hanging out and talking, and it just kind of went from there. My friend Rachel, I've known her for almost 15, 16 years now.
Mhm.
And we would go over, hang out at her apartment, and she had an entire library of witchcraft books, and we'd go through books and play D&D, hang out, and it was one of those come as you are things. And from there, I just kind of spiraled forward and made my way from a young, just out of high school kid to here I am practicing now for like 18 years. And I really think like the community is probably the biggest part for me, where I love the spells, the ritual, and everything, but I
Mhm.
love the community the most. Like the get-togethers, the public rights, the like just having discussions like this. These are my absolute favorite. What about you, Chrissy?
Well, it's always been with me. I think um, I think through my dreams and visions ever since I was a little kid, it's always been with me. I just never really tapped into it until I was a teenager. And then it was still kind of like, should I not? I think when I met my husband, and then he was like a sole contract to me, and then we had kids and everything, and it just started. That's it. So that's just, and then he just kind of followed my lead, and you know, we started out, with the family, and us worshiping with the babies in my arms or hanging on me or something. And then we started the coven when Amber was like 5 or 6. And then we started with the community, and it just kind of grew. The, the spark was lit, and it was getting brighter and brighter. And we just kind of ran with it. And we did community work for about 27 years. Kevin worked for 31 years. Well, no, about 30 years, excuse me, about 30 years. Um, so yeah, it was, I think this a witch in all of us. We just gotta kind of dig for it. So,
Yeah, I agree. I feel like that's like another huge thing with me too. Is just like the community, the diversity. No one is like the same. The diversity that I was raised with, which like for me, like from a young age, when some people that were different to our normal society wasn't different to me, it was my normal. So like for me, when people try to lead and say, "Hey, this person's different. You shouldn't like them because of that," I'm like, "That's like my sister, my brother. What are you talking about?" You know?
I think, and I don't know if it's different for me, like with this question, with the, like what sparked your interest in witchcraft and magic. The hard part for me is because it's been my life. Like there wasn't a spark. That's what it was. That was my life. There
Yeah.
wasn't like, hey, look at this book, or like for some of us 90s kids, it was that did you watch The Craft or something?
Sure.
There wasn't a catalyst like that for me. It
Well, there
was
was a
my
point.
life. Like, to put it in context, like for some people, it would be like asking someone that was raised Christian, what brought you into the church? And it's like, what do you mean? I was here. Like that type of idea. So it's different for me in that way, because it's just I don't have a coming to story.
Well, I think the
It's
better
that I
question,
was there.
the better question for you would be that it wasn't when did you come to the craft. It's when did you fall in love with it.
So this is, I will probably touch on this a little bit later too. When did I fall in love with it? It's like that as a kid, like when you go sit in the yard and you sit in the grass and you feel kind of like that hum all around you, and the wind picks up, like when you ask the goddess a question, or you communicate with her, with God, and the wind picks up a little, it pushes your hair. It's like those soft whisperings that I'm here, the all around me, the open your eyes now, or you'll know, like those subtle cues that are all around you. I think that's what made me fall in love with it.
Yeah.
It's that it's not it's the me, it's you, it's us, it's everything. It's I almost feel like calling it the craft is like limiting it, because it's more than the craft.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
It is.
Yeah.
And
So
let's
just
take a
knowing that it's
second
there.
to catch up on our comments here. So first we have Silver Dragon Hog saying hello. Hey Silver.
Hey.
Good
Hey.
JCP. Hey Nico. Kristen Lewis. Hello.
Hey, glad you made it.
We have Rona. Oh, look at my girls leading the podcast.
Mhm.
We have Meredith. Welcome, Meredith. Glad to see you. Runa. Hey, everybody. Green Fairy Tarot. Hey, guys. Glad to see you. Runa, Amy, you're like your dad, where it was who you are is everywhere. Amber more ritual, totally. Even growing up, you're like your mom.
Yeah, dad
Amber
and
is, Amber is a mini me.
Mhm.
yes.
And then we have my biological mom right here. I've been spiritually driven my whole life, and I am Nico's bio mom. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Stephanie.
Aw,
You're
thanks,
all
Jason.
Thank you,
doing
Justin.
amazing and appreciated, and you're worth it. You're enough.
Oh,
And
thank
we have Eric. Hello. Hey, Eric.
Hey, cuz.
Hey, cousin.
Cousin from another mother.
Yep.
So let's dig a little deeper. What would you say then is your favorite aspect of witchcraft? Do we have a favorite aspect? Nico, let's start with you.
So I have a soft spot for divination and all of its forms. I find the aspect of fortune telling and um, just like guidance from the gods is a. Ooh, we lost Chrissy. Super fascinating.
Mhm.
process to me. I enjoy finding the weirdest forms of divination and trying my hands at it. And I'll be the first person to tell you I am horrible at tarot cards. Yes, you can be a witch and be terrible at tarot cards. Um, but I honestly love divination. Runes, smoke reading, flame reading, throwing beans, bones, you name it. That is my favorite way to connect to my ancestors and the gods.
See, so mine, I mean, there's a couple. There's a couple, but I would say my favorite aspect, which we've kind of touched on this a little, Amy hinted at it quite heavily, ritual work. What gets me is feeling the walls build up, feeling the energy in there, it bouncing everywhere. That it's like putting on a heavy cloak. Like you didn't put on the cloak, but it's like you built the walls of ritual and the cloak was put on you. And you can feel it, and that movement of energy and the I don't know how to put it, like feeling that energy between your hands and feeling it build, and that communication, that feeling your third eye open, and the god is coming through you, and that energy weaving. That's what gets me. That's my favorite aspect of witchcraft. Other than that, outside of ritual work, just manifestation, just knowing that I like spell work, but I lean more heavily towards manifestation. And some of you may not quite connect with what I mean by that, but like I find that most the spell work I do is setting my mind and intention towards something and then letting the goddess do the rest. It's that like they always say that you have to do the legwork and the goddess will guide you in the right direction. The god they'll take you that way. And that's what I heavily believe in. So I think that might also be one of my favorite aspects, is just trusting that the divine spark will work through you. As long as if you are, it's like you're the arrow and you have to let the goddess pull you back and set you in the right direction. That's those two things, manifestation and then ritual work, my favorite things of witchcraft.
See, I view manifestation in two ways. It's either like you're taking a well-behaved dog on a walk, and the gods are the dog, and you're the one following behind them. Like the dog's the one truly in control. And then the other side of that is it's like trying to take a cat on a walk. They don't cooperate. I don't know how we got here. I've been stuck in the same place for the last 30 minutes and I'm ready to go home.
That reminds me of there's like the jokes about getting a group of witches together to get them in circle to get ritual to start, and it's hurting a bunch of cats.
Yep.
We're everywhere. Someone's laying over there. This person's already in the ritual before they're supposed to be. That one over there, they're like licking each other. I don't know. Like you just got to get people moving. Let's see. Gypsy, what is your favorite aspect of witchcraft?
It really is absolutely everything about it. At first, I guess it was just the magic. Magic is real. Magic happens. The energy, feeling the vibrations. It's being yourself as being a ball of energy, and it's just tremendous. You can do the spells, the herbs, the essential oils, talk to the trees, talk to the universe. It's just, everything's great. It's just absolutely great. My favorite aspect is every bit of it.
My favorite, I would say I love to do spell work. I remember one time I was showing Amber all my ingredients for spell work, and she made a comment that was more witchier than her. And I love divination. I like to work with spirit work a lot. I've always seen spirit since I've been a young child. I also like to do a lot of ancestry work and folk magic. I think it's my favorites, but I really, really love divination. Like, I think Nico and I could talk about divination for weeks and be completely content with the whole conversation and be
Oh, yeah.
smiling afterwards.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's my favorite part.
Yeah. See, Nico, do you want to catch up on the comments real quick? I see if you came
Yep.
through.
We have Rona, Amber. It is the utter trust you put in, or that you put it, what you want, and just knowing that it will happen. Yes.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's that you have to trust in yourself. I like the biggest
There it is.
advice that I ever got about spell work was you have to believe the spell will happen. You
Yeah.
don't think about it not happening because you're throwing it out there. It's, manifestation. You have to put the trust in the goddess, put the trust in yourself that it will happen, and it will.
Well, not even that it will happen, that it has already happened.
Yeah.
That you are
Yeah.
thanking them for it already existing.
Yeah.
And then Runa, haha, licking each other. Eric Dunham, I hear if you ask 10 witches about their practice, you'll get 12 different answers and they're all right. That's true. Witchcraft is a very non dogmatic spirituality and religion, depending on which side of it you're looking at, because there are aspects of witchcraft and practices of witchcraft that are not associated to any religion.
Mhm.
Now, we fall on the side of kind of a mixture between religious witchcraft and like secular witchcraft, where I'm a folk practitioner and a lot of my folk magic is secular, and
Mhm.
it's me working through my own power versus my religious aspects where I work with deities and have devotional work. So it really depends on the person.
Mhm.
But there's no like authority over like the witchcraft community where they have like a governing body over everybody. Like you're allowed to do what you want
And
for the
I
most
want to
part.
say, like, we'll probably hint at this in maybe a future episode, I guess, of podcast. That's what you call them, episodes.
Mhm.
One, probably, I'll just kind of add on to a previous question about one of my favorite parts about witchcraft is that there's no book of all. There's no source of all. It's the ground, it's the air, it's the universe. And as much as we try to at times tell each other how we should practice, there's no one way to practice.
Mhm.
And I love it. I love it because
Sure.
my practice is as unique as Nico's is, as my mother's is, as my sister's is, as the
Mhm.
people on the East Coast, the West
I
Coast,
always
when
say
you're
that, no one can really like dictate
Mhm.
how you do your witchcraft. Like, you make it your own and you find what works for you.
Oh, yeah. You
Yeah.
have your own moralities
Because
and your own goals.
Mhm.
everyone will tell you how to do your magic, but really it's your magic.
Mhm.
It's like our magic is unique as our fingerprints.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean,
Completely.
really,
We're all
the
different.
the only difference is like if you are in an organized structure like a coven,
Mhm.
there are people that may have guidelines on how you should do your magic
Mhm.
because you're doing this in a group setting and there's rules and boundaries.
Yeah.
But like your personal practice outside of that, realistically, as long as you're not harming anybody, and and when I mean harming anybody, I mean in a physical sense. If you are doing, curse work, things like that, and it's deserved, no problems.
Mhm.
But I'm talking like, the the stereotypes of witchcraft that, you know, we take people into the woods and we don't come back out with them. And
Completely
that's not
lost.
true.
Yeah.
That's left over from the Satanic Panic from the 80s and
Mhm.
90s. There's so many stereotypes that, as like living and like actual witches we have to deal with.
Yeah.
And on to our next question. Let's see.
All right. So, how do you incorporate witchcraft into your daily life? I can begin on this one. I just weave it in. I mean, that sounds like, yeah. So, for example, like when I get off work, I like to take a shower, and I just really like to cleanse all that stuff that just sticks on you throughout the day. And as the water is like pouring over me, I like to ask the goddess and the god to wash it away, to take my stress away. I am a person that gets wound up, and I know it. It's a blessing and a curse. And I feel like when the goddess in the water, when everything just the energy just washes over me, it's like this cleansing nature. And so I try to pull the energy, pull at the effects of everything that's within my life. Like when I want to focus, I drink the coffee and I ask it for the focus that I need. I consume it with that energy intention. When I get nervous and I get, or like if I'm driving and I just feel like this off feeling, it's those subtle moments where you do the little prayers to the Lord and the Lady and you ask them for protection. It's just seeing those moments and then you just keep going. It's you just pull the resources around you, and that's how I weave it in with my daily life. Or when you go outside at night, and recently I moved to a really rural area and basically in the middle of nowhere, but it gives me a beautiful view of the stars and of the universe at night. And taking that time to go outside and just pull from the resources above me and around me. And I mean, that's how I weave it into my daily life. I just am constantly engaging in it, whether I realize it or not, whether it's intentional or not. It's just you live it. You are the witch. You live with the witch. You are, you just keep, you don't separate it, I guess.
That's exactly what Chrissy said. Is
Yeah.
that like ultimately, like, it's a living experience. It's not just something you do. It becomes like not just a part of your personality, but like it
Mhm.
integrates every facet of your life.
Mhm. It's, yeah, it's just those things that you don't, eventually I feel like when you're in the craft enough that and it may just depend on your practice too, that it's, you're constantly doing it. Like you want clarity, you grab that deck and you pull some cards and you don't think about it like I'm practicing divination right now. You're just like, I just need some clarity, hold on. Instead of calling up my best friend, I'm just going to pull out these cards real quick and ask a couple questions. Like you just it just flows. It's just
I feel
what
like when you pull the cards, though, it's kind of like your best friend,
yeah.
the energy there.
Or I
Yeah.
gotta go call somebody because I pulled some runes or did divination. I mean, like, I need to talk to somebody about this because, like, what?
Right.
Yeah, completely. But I feel a lot like how Amber feels. Like it's in my life. It's intertwined in everything I do. If it's from me showering, like she said, cleansing yourself and releasing that energy, or you doing a rage ritual, or
Mm-hmm.
you outside screaming because you just had a freaking awful day, like
Mm-hmm.
it's everything around you, from like what I said earlier, from the wind blowing against your skin, and your magic could be cooking, like anything, like you taking a drink, even if it's not coffee, saying, hey, this is my intentions for my day, or
Mm-hmm.
I need aid with this,
Yeah. And it's
everything. And even like a lot of divination, like it's not even just cards, it's so much more. Like it's the music you listen to, and maybe you're searching for answers and this song comes on and it clicks and you're like, this is the answer, this is what I really needed to hear right now. So it's all around you.
yeah, and it's to kind of with like the song that comes on and stuff. you communicate with the goddess constantly. You open yourself for that information, for that communication. You don't even actively, I feel like I don't actively, unless I'm in ritual or doing like a designated spell necessarily, I don't think about opening myself to the goddess anymore. It's like you just, that channel's open and you let it open. And I mean, very rarely do I feel like I ever need to try to shut that down. And that's more on by, I don't know. Well, like if you feel like there's something there, then maybe I'm altering those channels a little bit more consciously. But it's, like it's within you, it's without you, it's all around you. It's your life.
You go from opening and closing the gate, walking through it to the point where, why do I have a gate here anymore?
Yeah, it's almost like you're changing radio dials. Like every once in a while, you're just like, oh, just turn it over a few notches. I got a better connection.
Yeah.
Like you're doing that actively now. It's like an auto tuner or something. Like you're not thinking about it.
Or like you're in a bookstore and you come across this book and it's a book that you really truly needed to read. Like it's life changing and you have no idea until you grab that book and you look at it and it clicks, it sinks in. You have that feeling, you're like, this is what I really needed at the moment, or you finding someone, you're like, this is the person I need in my life. Even if it's for a season or for a lifetime, that's the person you needed for that time. So it's magic all around you, from the people, from the things, and the elements around you.
Yeah.
All the energy.
What's your go-to spell or ritual? Do you have like certain ones for certain situations that you use? Nico, do you have like a go-to?
I really like fire spells, but I'm also an Aries, and if I get to light something on fire, it's always a good time. But remember, fire safety. Keep a cup of water. Maybe have a fire extinguisher nearby. They do get out of hand. I love using fire spells for like banishing things that no longer serve me, whether those are bad habits, um, situations, or people that I no longer need in my life. I was always taught the philosophy to bring something new and positive in your life, you have to let something go. And that's part of the exchange of the process, where if I'm not willing to let something go in my life, I don't have room to bring in a new energy, a new idea, more abundance, more love, more magic, that I have to let something go to do so.
Yeah.
Because the universe abhors a void.
Let's see. Amy, do you have a go-to?
So one of my favorite spells or that I like to do is when I need to release something. I think I've said this within our discussion, is to write down a letter to myself or to whoever, or things that I just need to release and to catch it on fire. If it's me throwing it into a bonfire or just lighting it and putting it in the cauldron, or a fireproof object, fire safety, water, like Nico said. I feel like it helps a lot with me, and I am, like what Nico said, I am a fire sign, so I connect to fire a lot. So I like to do that. That's like my go-to when I need to release something. Like I have a lot of spells, but that's one that I have done a lot. So
What about you, Gypsy? You have a go-to spell?
Go-to spell. I like to do lots of healing spells for one thing, but my go-to spells is just manifesting just everything that I can, and just being with the goddess every day. I just talk the talk, but also walk the talk too, and that's just the best thing. I mean, I can't say much of anything because you and Amber, or you and Amy already said said everything. So you can tell, I guess, we're mother and daughters because I taught you guys well, I guess, or your dad did, or we
You
both
taught
did.
everybody well?
Yeah. So, so your answers are going to be pretty much the same as mine. Almost.
To add on to, I mean, I really do enjoy that good releasal with spell work, with like writing it down and burning it and releasing it up to the universe to do our bidding, and to help us take care of it, to carry it where it needs to be. I would say casting a circle around me, doing the whole energy circle and sitting in it, and depending on it, how I'm feeling, either doing spirit or asking the Lord and Lady to come, but sitting there and vocalizing what I really want. I think one of my greatest tips, and I don't know if she would word it necessarily like this, but this is a takeaway I had from some of the Cabot courses that I took, was don't be afraid to ask for what you want. Don't ask for the means, ask for what you want to happen. And I think cutting out the bullshit sometimes is really just the most effective means of magical working for me. Just having that direct, clear intention. And
I feel like
I like doing that within a ritual setting. It's not necessarily a requirement, but I feel like that helps me get the most focus and the purest, direct energy movement that I need. So I think that's my go-to. Sitting in circle. And it doesn't necessarily, I mean, I like structured circles, but I think that's where it's the clearest for me. My other would be just going out underneath the moon and releasing it that way, but having her energy wash upon me as I'm directing. I think those are my two go-tos.
I feel like when you're doing like the ritual work too and the spell work and you're asking for what you truly want, you also have to remember that you might have to take that leap of faith. So are you ready to take that moment of what you truly want?
Yeah. Do you want to catch up on some of the comments before we move on?
Sure.
I know that there's some that's been trickling in.
We have Rona. It's a connection between the deity and yourself, not really anyone else's. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We have Silver. To see how everyone does their magic and how traditions do their magic is everyone's explanation or translation of the experiences of gnosis they have experienced. Yes, it's through the lens of everybody's personal lived practices.
Absolutely.
No, Amber, not you getting wound up ever.
Constantly.
This one, so I have recommendations on this. When you come to a situation that you need to inflict a curse upon somebody, you need to understand that if that person is in charge of finances and things like that, that depending on what you are going after, can directly affect the other people that live with them. Now you can put protection spells over the other people, but it often comes down to how you word things, and you have to be very precise with how you word it, and include things like may no harm come to anyone else but them, or may you have to be really careful with how you word it if you are going to go that way. But there are other ways to get them out of your life or to have people see their true natures that don't necessarily involve like bringing harm or financial ruin to somebody.
Yeah.
And there's always, that's one thing I love about witchcraft, is that there are thousands of ways to do a single thing, and that there may be another method that's better suited for that.
It's there's my only thing is, what tangle webs we weave. It's we're all, there's so much connected to every single person, so many factors, and there's side effects to everything. And it's you honestly, I think if you were going to put a spell, a curse, or any type of thing towards anyone, you have to play devil's advocate with yourself. That and if or what could happen, and decide at some point if it's worth that.
And I recommend do
dig
divination.
deep and figure out why you truly want that person to feel pain or feel hurt or feel anything. And yeah, there's a lot of, it's a mixture.
Yeah, and that's the kind of situation I always recommend anytime you're going to do any kind of spell work. Do divination to see how that spell is going to perform. What are the obstacles that you're going to face doing this work? Should you do this work? What happens if you do? Like, what obstacles do you have for it? What happens if I do or don't do this spell? Like, just to kind of get a preview of and help you with that decision process of, is this something that I need to put my time and energy into, or do I need to let it go?
Yeah.
Is this already taken care of?
And also, is that person worth your time, your energy, worth your attention any more than they already have of yours?
Yes.
Yeah.
One of my favorite sayings is, I would curse them, but they're not worth the herbs.
Yeah.
And then we have Eric here. I've gotten to the point where I've been aware of where I am, and I just started casting without realizing how odd I look. I fully embrace how weird I am. If you see me in the park, the cemetery, the church parking lot, the bank parking lot, collecting dirt, herbs, like charging my crystals, like anything like that, and you don't like it, mind your business. I will do my weird witchy things, and I you don't people aren't entitled to know exactly what you're doing, and if you're fully open about practicing, that is it's beautiful, it's liberating, but it's not for everybody. Everybody knows I'm a witch. My family knows I'm a witch. I have family members that are witches. I'm married into a family of witches, and it's a very interesting experience. But I know plenty of people that would never tell their partner they're a witch, and like it can become a safety issue, and your safety comes first. So please do what you need to.
Yeah.
And then we have Rona. It's found in you because magic is just a part of you, and you became so intertwined with it. It's just become you. Yes. Well, I like to view it as we are spirits or souls encountering a human experience, and not that we are humans encountering a spiritual experience. Like, everybody is a spiritual being, and we're having a physical and human experience. And then when we pass on from this world, we take that information back with us, whether you believe in reincarnation or not. If this is our only life, then I'm going to live it to the fullest and learn everything I can. If I get to come back and do it again, great. If I just get to wander this world as a spirit, then I have a list and I'm haunting you.
I kind of also think it is like, I don't know where the magic ends. I don't know where I end and where the magic begins, because I am magic and you are magic, and it's intertwined, just like my chords.
Everything, including the simple conversations and exchange of energy and ideas, and that in and of itself is like the simplest form of magic.
Yeah. Oh, it makes me think of this. It's kind of corny. It's like the simplest form of magic, where someone says, "You want to see me do magic?" And you're like, "Yeah, absolutely." And they pick up a pen and they move it. And they're like, "Do you know how much magic was involved in that?" And you don't. And they're like, "No, that wasn't magic." And you're like, "But it was. Just think about it." Yeah.
Then we have Runa. Yeah, totally channels being open because it's just what our life is. We live magic, not practice it. Exactly. Oh my god, me too. I think it's because we live magic, so we speak and just become normal. And it just becomes normal. not just a Sunday. Yes.
Yeah.
Where like it very much becomes not just a weekly ritual or like a daily devotional. It hits all aspects of our life.
Mhm.
You're hitting mile markers, baby blessings, weddings, funeral services, like your friend's sick in the hospital, so you're gonna go light a healing candle for him.
Mhm.
Like there's a solution and an answer for everything that life has
Mhm.
for us. And there are a million ways to make your entire life magical or little dustings of magic here and there. Like it's one of those things where you can dive deep into the end of the pool if you want, or you can wade in the front and it's all valid, it's all whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
And then Rona again, do you guys find it easier to do ritualistic spell work easier? Other just doing kind of natural meaning more like your so like thunder's work rather than ceremonial.
Um, I find it depends. Depends. Sometimes the security of knowing that you've I use this if it makes sense this way. Baking a cake is just fine. Cake is delicious. I translate that to me just working with myself, just my hands, my body, you know, my wand. But I feel like sometimes when you put the icing on the cake, you put the sprinkles, you put the filling, you put, raspberries in it, like it sometimes adding more is great. And, doing the ritual, doing the well thought out spell, putting in the right ingredients, the herbs, the oils, anointing yourself, thinking about the candles, the association, the materials all involved, laying out the spread of the altar and everything. But sometimes that's more comforting for the what you're doing. Um, to me, I find both easy, but it depends on the situation. It depends where I'm at. I take comfort in myself, and I take comfort in the extra. It
Mhm.
just depends where I'm at, what I want to do, and what I have to work with. But I'm fine with myself. I don't see as one more easier than the other. Now, I would think if you, not me, but if someone had, if they were really, I don't know a good word for it, if they were really concerned or really in their head about, am I going to do this right? Or will I mess up? Simplicity is better.
Mhm.
Less things for you to overthink. But I I think the more that you gain confidence in yourself, the easier things become.
I
When
agree.
you're confident in your abilities, and I don't mean this to sound arrogant in any way, you will always find anything easy because you know you can make it happen. You know that the goddess has your back, that the god has your back, and the universe is willing to help you carry it out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. Where for me, so as a somebody who does folk magic predominantly, well, I do still have like ceremonial magic within coven dynamics, and we still do like full rituals for the holidays. A majority of my practice is what's considered low magic, where these are very simple things, little charms, like very, very simple things, sometimes no ingredients, sometimes visualizations. And the longer that I practice, the more that I have kind of come full circle and come back to that. Where, and well, uh, like Amber said, I absolutely enjoy a fully decorated cake. I also love a brownie. And it, I do both, but I mostly in my practice honestly make brownies to go with the metaphor. Like I love folk magic and the simplicity, and I think that it is something that a lot of people benefit from, and it is integrated in a lot of different traditions. But some people get so caught up in your planetary hours and certain astrological correspondences, and I need hundreds and hundreds of dollars to make this spell work. Give me Grandma's kitchen cupboard spice cabinet and some birthday candles and a terracotta pot, and I will be just as happy as if you put a $600 crystal in my lap.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so back to the Q&A with the Meet the Witches. What is one thing you wish you knew when you started your witchy journey? And see, you go ahead and begin.
So I found this later in my practice. So I was raised in a Ozark folk tradition, but it was not something that was. It was just stuff that Grandma did and that my family did. And it wasn't until I reflected back on life, more knowledge about witchcraft and practices, that I realized that I was raised in a folk tradition and that my grandma was a folk practitioner.
Mhm.
And it it got to the point where I had to have a conversation with my mom and be like, grandma's like a witch, right?
Hmm.
And she was like, "What do you mean?" And then I started explaining to her in witchcraft these are the things we do. And then, have you watched Grandma when she gets mad at somebody and she doesn't like them and they leave the house and she cleans towards the front door and then takes it outside? Grandma just banished them from coming back to her house.
Hmm.
And then it clicked for her, and she's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I guess you're right."
Amy, what about you? What's one thing you wish you knew when you started your witchy journey?
The judgment that came with it,
Hmm.
Yeah.
because I didn't have a choice. Like, this is who I always have been, and it's the person I am. And wherever I go, wherever I've lived, because I've lived multiple states, um, even within school, there's always judgment. There's always someone who's going to have a remark, someone who's always going to wish ill upon me because of who I am. And some of us didn't choose. It's just who we always have been.
Mhm.
I think that's,
Oh, and what's the saying? If you don't have haters, you didn't make it.
yeah. So I think that's like the biggest thing.
Yeah. I think for mine, it would. I had a lot of pressure of staying within tradition and to be pure in a way. And I think one thing, so I hope I say her name right. There was a book by Laura Tempest Zakroff. I think that's how you say her name, if I remember right, called Weave the Liminal. And the thing that I got from that book, and I wish I would have read it when I was younger, was permission to do your craft the way you want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I mean, there's so much more in that book too. Feel free to check it out. But I think that was the biggest thing that I wanted to, if I could go back to when I really started studying, was that it was okay to live up to nobody's expectation. And that
Yes.
it's okay to do it the way you want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that at the end of the day, it's you. It's your practice. It's nobody but you and the gods, you and the universe. Just even cutting out the gods, it's nobody but you. And it's okay to do it however you want. If you don't want to do the full Sabbath, it's fine. You don't have to do the whole ritual. You can celebrate it the way you want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You can cast the spell the way you want to do it. And it's, that moment it's okay to breathe. It's okay to just do it the way you want. It's okay to miss a full moon. It's okay to relax. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that was the biggest thing that I think I wish I knew.
I want to piggyback off of that.
Mhm.
There, especially in this age of social media, we see so many portrayals of witches on different social media platforms where they have all these timed correspondences. They're dressed in full
Yeah.
ritual garb. They're every full moon, every morning devotional, and it's not obtainable for everybody, and it's
Mm.
not. You have to have grace in your practice, where it's okay to miss the full moon. It's okay to, you know, forget to do your offerings or
Mm.
things like that. The gods aren't going to be angry at you. You're if you need to do the spell and it's not the right correspondence, do it.
Mm.
Like they're still listening.
I
And
completely agree with that. Like, sorry for interrupting you, Nico. Like, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to not be a perfect witch. I don't even think there is a perfect witch.
mm,
I feel like we have so much pressure on ourselves that, especially like Amber and I, our mother is a high priestess, our dad's a high priest, and we had so much pressure from the community and from everyone who knew us, from authors and everything across the country and stuff.
Mm.
You felt like you were being like stared at in a way, and you had all this pressure, and sometimes it's suffocating. But you have to be kind to yourself. You have to be grace. You're not going to do everything correctly. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to make a fool of yourself once in a while. Like Amber and I had to make a bunch of public speeches, and I'm sure we look back and we're like, what were we saying? Probably very embarrassed. And
I'd love to know what I said.
but you need to be, you have to be kind to yourself. You have to give yourself grace. You're going to fall down on your face, and
Yeah.
you have to forgive yourself for that too, because I feel
mm,
like there's so much pressure on everything you do in life, not just our mundane, but our magical life, and
mm. Well,
just
that's
being
part of the
kind.
balance. It
Yeah.
really is. We're like, we all have day jobs, and the girls have kids, and we all have relationships, and coven dynamics, or like our witchy communities and things like that. And we're all trying to find a balance with everything.
Yeah.
And if you don't have time to carve out a 4, 12, or 4 to 6 hour ritual to go do a public event for a Sabbath, go clean your house. Do like it. It's more your intentions and spending your time with the gods than it is
Yeah.
doing anything else. And whatever you have the time to carve out for it is time that you intentionally sacrificed to open the space up for the gods
Yeah. Like
or for yourself. Like,
for me, because I have 4 kids, I don't have time to do like a huge feast or ritual and all this other stuff. I just give myself 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and
mhm,
I give myself permission. That's okay. That's enough. The goddess understands, but
With you kids,
you have to be kind to yourself.
Yes.
yeah, with you kids, I mean, you was raised into this path, and you was there with your dad and I while we was doing events and working with the community, and teaching, not just the coven, but like some UU churches and etc. And one thing I've learned out of my years is you do not have to be perfect. So, like you all three have said already, that make the craft to suit you, not to suit anybody else.
mhm,
Um, the craft is always and will be very special to yourself. Like I said, you guys already said it all, so perfect.
Then let's catch up on the comments here for a second. Let's see, we have Kristen. I like to release to the river. Yes, I love working with the elements, and like I've gone really kind of back to the basics, where like I do a lot of elemental spells. Um, I've just simplified my practice over the years, where I'm a busy person. I work a full-time job with the with our Facebook and Discord group and my own coven, and trying to balance family and friends and everything else. Like not that I've had to, but it's more efficient for me to do it.
Mhm.
And I think that's been a big factor in how my practice has evolved.
Mm.
And then Runa, no beginning and no end to magic, yes. And then we have our Vanderjuk. I found that you do more simple folk magic stuff using what you have than having to do or you do more with simple folk magic than when you have to do a bunch of prep work and ingredients from all over the world. I agree.
Mhm.
Now, some people, especially when you're first starting out, I definitely do teach people to use tools
Mhm.
because I think it helps you get into the mind state, and then I slowly try to wean people off of the tools.
Mhm.
And but I totally agree.
I feel like starting with some tools helps you realize how to direct energy
Yes.
and to see the power within everything.
Mm,
And
we're
then
very
from there,
patient.
you can kind of control your own energy and control the energy around you.
Mm. And then Runa, Tanika's comment on my teaching, learning my magic practice. So to say I'm like Chris, and then again, it was the late night talks that taught me to just be the magic in my life. I feel for myself so stronger with natural rather than ceremonial magic per se. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then our like read stuff in a book and go, I'm not gonna do that versus stuff like meditation, putting dimes in your shoes. Yes. Like
How many times have you read a book and you've seen such I mean, a beautiful spell or a beautiful ritual, and then you're like, I'm not doing that. I mean, I love it, but I'm not doing that.
or I don't have time for that. Or
Or do you know how
am I
expensive it is to do that?
yeah.
And you're like,
It's,
I can't. I mean, I'm not, I can, I can save and save and save, and then you just hope that you'd get out of it what you would expect.
mm,
Mhm.
one of my favorite sayings that my one of my mentors gave me is that it's beautiful when you can sacrifice all of this time and money to the gods and get an answer, or when you can go forage for your own ingredients and like truly like build that magic yourself. But I don't have a mandrake root, and you're gonna get incense powder and this birthday candle, and they're gonna be happy about it too.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Then JCP, I think the purpose of rituals to wake up the old mind in us and put to work the old ones in us, the collective conscious or the collective unconscious that many lives, the divine eternal parts and senses. Yes.
Yeah.
Runa,
And I feel that ritual, so it tunes into that side of you a little bit easier. Sometimes that
sometimes,
boundary
mm,
helps you shift
yeah,
mentally.
like it symbols my practices. Like I still have like ritual jewelry pieces
Mhm.
and like things that help put me in the mindset before I do a ritual. And like I find those helpful because they help open up that mindset of what I'm doing is like a sacred act and the
Mhm.
communication with the divine. And they help me get into that mindset. And we have Runa, the girls taught Ridian as you grew up some to just be yourself. They saw you do that and they had your support things. Then things got hard and people were not right to them. They had your strength and covens because that's what you saw. That is my favorite thing about being in a coven and
Mhm.
being in a tradition, and just the witchy community is like so supportive in
Mhm.
so many ways. And I've seen like fundraisers, GoFundMe's, like people struggling, and like the whole community's there to help. I've seen, like here locally, we have issues with a church that likes to protest outside of one of our metaphysical
Mhm.
shops. And there's several of us witches that when they go to protest outside of the shop, we blare some really, really uncomfortable music for them. I like to blare. There's a genre of country music that is like very lewd gay romance country,
Mm.
and I like to play that for them while they're praying. And it doesn't hurt anybody.
Yeah.
And
On a you, Nick. On a you.
oh yeah.
So let's see. If you don't have so Silver said, if you don't have the time or energy to do a ritual that day, say like Litha, for example, you could simply do something you're doing around the house, laundry, cleaning, cooking, etc.
Mm,
I love this around like Imbolc time frame with the prepping and the
oh, yeah.
preparing for the year, because it's like the time to
It's
drag
the
up
time to do the
all your
spring
witchy
cleaning.
stuff, all your supplies, and go through them and to clean your space and to
Mhm.
see, do you have the candles for the year? Do you need to mix them? Do you need to prep some? Do you, like yeah, just there's so many things that you can do the Sabbath in different
Oh, yeah.
ways
Well, and I've moved
around
from
you.
like, well, I love the public rights for like the witches' sabbats. I found
Mhm.
myself moving a little bit farther away from the wheel of the year per se, and
Mhm.
more like working with the season and
Mhm.
um, like I don't have to just celebrate, the turning of the season on this day. I'm celebrating the
Mhm.
entire season.
Yeah, yeah.
And like, I once I start noticing the changes here, I'll swap the decorations on my altar. The leaves are turning, the weather's cooling down. It's time to get some leaves and, grains, and we're gonna put out our little apples and my little spooky decor. And not that the spooky decor really leaves any time during the year. They get Yule hats.
Mhm.
Like, I put little hearts on everything during, the for Valentine's Day, stuff like that. But I mean, to each their own. Sometimes the Halloween decorations go away. Sometimes they get hats.
Yeah.
And then when people who have disabilities, not everybody can do ritual. Yes, like doing everything can become exhausting with rituals or gatherings, and sometimes it's an accessibility issue. I try to do what I can, and in our Facebook group, we've done discussions on like low spoon
Working with your
magic and
disability or something like
yeah,
that.
people with chronic illnesses, disabilities, and like tips and tricks for people that may be in the community there, and like how to make things more accessible for them, and to kind of bring that to everybody else's attention too.
One thing that I have noticed with don't be afraid to ask for the accommodation.
Yeah.
And it's best to do it beforehand and not
Mm,
in the circle. Um, I think it's easier to address it beforehand, because it can, like, if you need if you need to sit, if you need a chair, if you need water,
mm,
if you need, just something extra, sometimes it's ask for it ahead of time. We can cast a circle around a chair.
yeah.
We can make sure you have water. We can make sure that we can address certain needs. If you like need to use the
Or
bathroom, don't be afraid to say, "Hey, can you cut me a door real quick?" Like
yeah,
it's
you can have
people
someone there
make
to like
accommodations
shut
for
a
you.
door for you. Like if you're handicapped or you have small children or
Yeah,
whatever, you
like
know.
it's a part of life, and like
Yeah.
for our public rituals, like we have a tent set up in the shade. We have water and lemonade available. We have
Mhm.
snacks. We have like a number of seating, and we recommend bring your own seating too. So
Mhm.
like for us, we'll include the chair space and the shade in our circle,
Mhm.
just because rituals can be long, and not everybody can stand the whole time. And
Mhm.
during the summer festivals and things like that, it's hot, it's sweaty, it's like 90
Mhm.
degrees, and we're standing outside for 3 to 5 hours doing events. And like, that's not good for anybody.
Mhm. I also think that like it's okay to sit down. It's okay in the middle of a ritual to be like, I need to sit down, whether it's to ground
Yeah.
yourself because you're taking on too much, or because you're feeling a little faint, or
Yeah.
your knees or your calves are starting to ache. Like just sit down.
Yeah.
Like I've always had problems with my iron, so I'm anemic a lot.
Mm.
So sometimes I do have to sit down because for standing for too long of a period, I. I have to take care of
Mm.
myself. And
Mhm.
if you don't take care of yourself, how are you really going to manifest any magical workings?
Yeah.
Exactly.
With our Sauron rituals, our Saurons are they're pretty long at times. They can go into 3 hours, and we don't expect anybody to stand up for 3 hours. Sit
Yeah.
down, make yourself comfy, and
Mhm.
you could do it. You know, the
Mm.
gods doesn't care. You know, they like to laugh with you, and they want you to be, comfort.
Yeah. And to
And
that extent, your ritual doesn't have to be 3 hours long.
It
no,
could
No.
be
It can
5
be
minutes.
5 minutes.
it
It's
doesn't.
Yeah.
okay. It's completely okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so to move on with the Q&A, how do you balance witchcraft with other aspects of your life? Kind of that work, family, friends out there. How do you deal with it? How do you continue?
I intentionally, so time management's a huge thing for me in general, just because of everything else that I'm responsible for. Um, I have to carve out time. So I wake up 2 hours before I have to go to work, and that includes my 15-minute meditation. I'm making my coffee and having my banishment of sorrows and uh, bad luck for the day, and
Mhm.
then I'm getting my shower in, and then wash all the gunk off, spiritual cleanse, and then get dressed, leave for work. And I carved out that time in the morning to do that before nobody else is awake. I have that peace and quiet, and I can be focused. And then I carve out uh, time on my weekends because I have weekends off,
Mhm.
where I set aside like every other Sunday for discussions and for book club, and
Mhm.
I have my business hours for my spells for hire and things like that, my psychic
Mhm.
readings, where I have that like dedicated time slots for doing those works, as well as maintaining my own devotionals and my my coven meetings, where like I run my schedule like clockwork
Mhm.
because that's how I can do this much.
Yeah. Yeah. I think sometimes I'm doing great, sometimes I'm not. And there's a little level of knowing that it's okay.
Mm,
It's okay to be able to be very highly functional and out there and productive, I would say, in the witchcraft community. Sometimes I do great at that. I've gone years where it was just like I worked, I managed having a young child and spending time and really focusing and building relationships and booming love life, and also being very active with my family's coven and stepping into the high priestess role and really doing the classes and teaching and sharing knowledge and building people up and feeling like like I wasn't missing a beat. And then there's other times where it gets a little chaotic. We're just going to work and making sure that I can cook a meal for my kids that night is a lot. And it kind of comes and goes, and at times I
mhm,
fluctuate my practice.
I agree.
I take joys in just going outside at night when the kids are in bed and soaking up the moonlight.
Mhm,
And that moment alone can be like, yes, I'm a functional witch and I am living up to my practice and my expectations of myself. And then there's other times where creating courses and classes and teaching and getting the community together, and I'm like, yeah, that's it. It's you have to be able to, I think, if you can't handle the time management aspect, you have to be more accepting of yourself in your practice.
and yeah, have that
Yeah,
grace, and
yeah.
you can be an imperfect witch and still practice and still call yourself a witch, and there's
Still
no
be a
right or
perfect
wrong
witch
way to do
while,
any of
yeah.
this. Like, if
Mhm.
I've had times where I forgot what the Sabbath or that the day was the Sabbath,
Mhm.
and I normally do like a potluck for the Sabbats, or we have a
Mhm.
community ritual or something. And I've had days where it's halfway through the day and it's, oh gods, it's the Sabbath.
Mhm.
I didn't start the crock pot. I don't have anything ready for a potluck. And
Mhm.
like I haven't invited anybody, and like it's all fine. Like we
Mhm.
had you have to have that grace, and it's okay to be forgetful and to have the mundane take over your life, or
Mhm.
like everything happens. Kids, animals, like partners, like there's
Life
so
just
much.
happens.
Yeah.
You have
Oh
to, like what I said earlier, you have to give yourself like that freedom, and you don't need permission from the goddess or the
yeah.
god or the people around you. You don't need, like,
Oh
it's
yeah.
just like that pressure,
Mhm.
to do something grand when you don't
Mhm.
have to. You can be just simple and you can just be
Mhm.
satisfied with that.
I practice where I have the time, the money, and the resources. And when I don't, I do my prayers, and that might be Dollar Tree incense.
Yeah.
That might be my beautifully handcrafted incense, like whatever I can afford,
Right.
whatever I can get.
Or it can
And
just be a birthday candle,
yeah,
Yeah.
birthday
or
It's
candle.
it's that
whatever.
reminding yourself that you don't need that like beautiful beeswax candle that's gonna last forever. And sometimes it's like I have this like cheap emergency candle that I'm pretty sure is probably not that healthy to burn, but sometimes that's what I have and that's what I do, and that works.
Yes.
I think I the major thing is that it's, and you get this a lot with like newer witches, or when you let the community influence you too much. Um, you don't need to do 50 things throughout the day. You don't need to have that like 15 to 30 minutes of solid meditation and your daily tarot card spread. It's great if you can, but like you, and then the rituals, and then the this and the that, and constantly reflecting. And you don't have to do all of that.
No, and
You can balance being a witch without all of that.
I think that there's a sense of ego too that
Mhm.
comes in the spiritual community where there's this assumption that's described that you need to do all these things to be like a good and powerful and like divinely connected
Mhm.
witch, and you really don't. Like,
Yeah.
and sometimes these are coming from people that are uh, they're business witches. They're here to sell you their services, and they're trying to like prove
Mhm.
like in some semblance that I'm I'm here and what I do works, and that's great for them. But
Mhm.
we have lives.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's sometimes those are the witch, like I've seen it both. I've seen witches where they have been very forward with their path and very open, and you can tell they do a lot, and then be in ritual next to them and feel nothing, just absolutely nothing.
Mhm.
Could be a statue next to me or like a rocking chair. I don't feel anything. There's nothing coming from them, and that could be their preference. Maybe they're not projecting anything out there, but and then I've seen people where like I just didn't think they had much going on. And then you get in ritual with them and you're like, dang, you are just like, it's the sun next to me. You are radiating, you are making this energy flow. And you haven't, you didn't hear them talk about a single book, like they're just hanging out, chilling. It's interesting. I feel like you can do a lot and be very powerful. You can do a lot and not be powerful. You can do a little and be powerful. You can do a little and not be powerful. It's surprising at times.
It's always fascinating.
Yeah.
It really is. Where it's like some people are like I have a friend, and nothing against him. He's one of my best friends. But he's like, I've practiced ceremonial magic for a decade. And he's like, I don't know how to make moon water. And it's like, I don't, like, I can perform a circle, but I don't know how to raise the energy.
Mhm.
And because I was talking to him about energy work and like different things. And he's like, I don't know any of that. And
Mhm.
it's like, you're a ceremonial magician and you don't know how to raise energy? And I'm sitting there like, I was floored. And it's like, you've been doing this for 10 years? And like, not saying that the way I do it's the right way,
Mhm.
but I'm sitting there like, in my practice, these were basics. And that's not
Mhm.
the case for everybody.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting there like, I was so confused. And I was
Mhm.
like, and, and then he started incorporating things and he's like, oh my God, it's made it, like, it's a huge difference. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, we had this like running joke where he's like, it takes him 5 hours to do the same thing. It takes me 5 minutes, and they both get results. And he's like, now I understand. Now I understand
Yeah.
why you say that. I'm glad that works for you, but I don't have time for that.
Mhm.
And he's like, I thought your type of magic was silly because it's so simple. And I see that a lot where the lower forms of magic, the simpler forms of magic, people think that if it's something that's done really quick or things like that, that there's not a lot of power to it, or that like different traditions are like more powerful than others. It's
Yeah.
not the tradition itself being more powerful. It's the experience and the direction of the practitioner. And it's all from a personal basis. How much energy can you raise? Who's there raising energy with you?
Mhm.
And like, there's so many variables. Like,
Oh yeah.
and that's the beauty of the craft.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. What's your favorite witchy resource? Do you have a favorite witchy resource? Amy, what about you?
Um, I love books. Like, I'm huge on books. I like to listen to podcasts. I like to go on YouTube. I try to use every resource I can, even if it's me digging on TikTok and looking for a video and a witch that I click with aesthetically and has the same style as me, as my craft.
Mhm.
And something, I feel like with any resource, you have to do your own research and make sure they're doing it correctly as well, because you will
Mhm.
find a lot of times when you find a resource or a video or something and you look it up and you're like, what are they doing? So
Mhm.
Yeah.
just know where your resource is from. And even with books,
Yeah,
sometimes,
just because it's in a book and an author's put it there, you want to research who the author is, what they do, like if they're showing you a practice, where did this practice come from? There's so many things like, is this a good author? Is it a bad author?
Mhm.
Is, this something, because some authors and different printing companies are forced to write books on topics that they don't know about
yeah,
to maintain their contracts.
because it can be very like commercialized in a way, if you
And
know
you
what I
can,
mean.
versus like people that are like passionate about teaching like a specific type of magic,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and you can see the difference
And
in
it's like
the books and videos and
finding like your teacher, or
Yeah.
not every teacher is going to be the right style for each
Mhm.
person. Everybody has a different learning style. And, some people are more visual, some people more like structure, some people, there's all different types. Like some people are more traditional, some people more like in different types of magic and stuff like that. So,
I think my favorite resource, shameless plug here, the discussion group, the Within the Cauldron Facebook discussion group. I think the community has turned into my favorite resource because I mean, there's tons of information between the books and the podcast and everything that's out there. There's so much, but I think listening to people with their tried and true methods and kind of pulling from like maybe I will try that, or getting that like that kind of hidden meaning behind the experience. Um, so yeah, I think my favorite resource is the community.
I agree. I think that our community, especially with the members that we have, that
Mhm.
there's tapping into that collective experience between all of the different witches and different paths is
Mm.
one of my favorite things. Where doing the discussions and just picking everybody's brains
Yeah.
is
Um,
my absolute favorite.
it makes me think of that saying that you tell parents, it takes a village to raise a child. Sometimes it takes a village to raise a witch.
Mhm.
And I hope everyone finds this, but I feel like we've found our village,
Mm,
and it's nice that we can all help each other grow and raise within our paths.
oh yeah.
And
I
I
feel like
truly hope that everyone finds that.
I feel like also when you find something like that, it's kind of like a relationship in a way. It could be a passing
Mhm.
ship. You have to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you do your spell work, sometimes it presents itself and you do not see it.
Yeah, yeah. And see, how do you define? And we kind of touched based on this. How do you define your personal witchy style? See, Gypsy, if you want to start on that.
Oh, I
Oh,
was so quiet for a while. I was probably fall asleep. No,
I know. I was like, let's wake her up.
it's like, my own personal rich stuff is this. I just like to go with the flow of everything. I'm traditional, but then yet I'm not. So I just kind of do my own thing that seems to be just right for me. And that's just the best way I think that everybody should is just go with the flow with things and to do what you want to do. If you're not breaking any of the karma laws or anything, then it's fine.
I think for my personal witchy style, I would say it's a little blend between traditional and spiritualist and kind of intuitive. Sometimes I just listen to what the spirits tell me to do.
Mm,
Like when you're reaching in the cabinet and you're like, which herb do I need? And sometimes you have to listen to the like, this is it. And when you're adding that ingredient and you think about how much into your spell work, you have to listen to kind of like when you're cooking and you're adding salt or something or pepper, and then grandmother whispers in your ear, "That's enough, child," and you're like, "Oh, okay." Like it's I follow my path, and there's so much more to my path than sometimes I give it credit for, like my tradition. Um, but then sometimes I just do what I feel needs to be done.
mm,
And sometimes that's just going outside and sitting in the grass and manifesting. Other times it's just day to day movement and willing things out into the universe and carrying out actions to fulfill that. And then sometimes it's more of my tradition and following the Trigwindas and doing certain actions. So it's a mixture, but I also find myself to be at times deeply spiritual, and then that's where I connect. So
mm,
it's that's kind of where I'm at. It's like that little hodgepodge. I mean, to be honest, I'm probably a little bit eclectic too. I no offense to anybody who has a family tradition and that really falls into that category, but I feel like everyone's a bit eclectic, whether we want to admit it or not. We are,
yeah.
because what works for you is what works for you, and that's okay. Yeah. What about you, Nick? What do you think?
I I agree. I am a folk practitioner, folk witch, Reiki master. I am in the Strega Lavikia tradition and the QRA tradition. Um, my religious basis is Norse paganism. I work with the Norse and Germanic gods. Um, I also work with um, my ancestors and my folk magic practice.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree. Like it, our group's kind of like a blend of we have our traditional practice, and then I have my religious practice, and I have the folk magic, and sometimes they get work together, sometimes they don't,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
where
Okay.
we're at.
I feel like growing up within a Lebekia tradition, like that's where my roots are.
Mhm,
But I do have those Cabot influences that it I couldn't personally continue on with being purely Cabot because Lori wants it to be a sovereign tradition, from my understanding. So I can't go further in that because I want to respect that. But I will not dismiss my teachings that I have. So that comes into play. So it is a little bit eclectic because of that. I can't, you can't take away the knowledge that you have and say, I'm not going to use it. But I find that sometimes I move away from a traditional approach and being a little bit more ceremonial at times to just communing with the goddess, the god, and just being spiritual, just that. And it's, it's a blend. It's definitely a blend. What about you, Amy?
I'm more of a eclectic witch. I feel like there's so much of like a pressure to be a high priest and to take over the coven because I'm the oldest daughter, and it's not really who I am. I'd rather be solitary and do my own thing and not color within anybody's lines. I'd rather make my own magic and to be whoever I want to be.
Yeah.
I like folk magic. I like water magic. I work a lot with fire, and I feel like I just want to do what I want. And sometimes it changes with different phases of my life. Right now, I'm in the mother phase, and it could be different next year or next month, what kind of witch I want to be. And that's fine because I feel like as a witch and as just being human, you're always changing, always evolving, and that's fine. So
I like that you're honest about it, that you own your practice.
Yeah, it's my own magic. And I know a lot of people dictate, be like, you have to follow a tradition, you have to follow this goddess for the rest of your life, and blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, it's my magic, and I'm going to do what I want. And that's fine.
What's your most magical or your most meaningful magical experience that you've had? Nico, let's start with you.
Earlier in my practice, this was probably 8 or 9 years ago, I was asked by my mentor to help in a healing circle for one of her coven members who had cancer. And that has probably been one of my favorite experiences, and probably will for the rest of my life, where we had so many spiritual powerhouses in our community coming together with this woman to give her the best chance that we could. And we did this healing ritual, and everybody is putting their all into it, and just feeling the energy raised and the beauty and the raw emotions that were involved when you're doing that kind of work was absolutely beautiful to me. And she did eventually pass away, but it's the reminder that there's only so much that we can do, and only so much that when the gods are calling you home, they're calling you home. And we might be able to push you away for a little bit, but if it's time for you to go home, it's time for you to go home.
Yeah. I think so. For my most meaningful magical experience, it's personal, but I'm fine with sharing it. With my ex-husband before we were married, and it was an unintentional magical experience. So to put it simply, we were showering together. We're not talking about any type of sexual experience here, and we were looking into each other's eyes and just focusing. So prior to that, to put some context, we did a meditation, and I wanted to bring him to my goddess. So we did like a guided meditation where I brought him through the woods to uncover the goddess. And there was this clearing, and she had this moment of like, I'm glad you found each other. And it meant a lot to me. And then carry on through the night. So we wanted to kind of wash the magic off, or not wash the magic, but wash the energy off of us in a way. And we were looking in each other's eyes, and it was like we were seeing each other in past lives. Like our faces just started changing. And some of you may be thinking, okay, so maybe you guys were under the influence of something. We weren't, not at all, nothing. but having that moment to just look at someone and see that their past selves, just that's the way I interpret it, and he interpreted it, revealed to each other. And I think that was the most meaningful magical experience I've had, because it was something that I couldn't find an explanation for on why it was happening and why I was seeing that and why we were revealing each other to each other at that time. And it was pretty early on in our relationship, so it was interesting. It was different, and it meant that there was, to me, it meant that there was magic that wasn't written about, that wasn't out there, that there was experiences that people may have experienced that they don't share with each other. So it was like that, there's more to dig, there's more to learn, there's deeper connections with people that people they don't share with each other. So I think that was my most meaningful one. What about you, Amy?
I feel like being in ritual and feeling the energy of everyone and feeling the magic wrapped around you. It's like a little blanket. And I feel like that's like a really simple answer, but it can be just as powerful as, you know, looking into someone's soul, as Amber was saying. But also, I remember like I was really, really sick, and I had to chant to the goddess to be there with me and feeling her magic and channeling her through me so that I wouldn't go away, you know?
Yeah.
I would say.
You know, I find that, I mean, just feeling the energy, feeling that that heavy cloak that I was talking about earlier, sometimes that is just like, it's what you need to know.
Yeah.
Got
I
it.
feel like
You know that it's
when
happening.
you feel like you're about to die or something like that, and channeling the goddess saying, I need help. I need you to guide me. I need you to protect me and be there for me. You know, I feel like that can be super powerful, of course, you know, because you're begging basically for your life, you know, because you're super sick. But I feel like that's definitely one of the most powerful moments I've had. Or even like a lot of people don't even realize when the doctor puts your baby in your arms for the first time and you feel that magic and that power, you know, you created life. And I think that's just as beautiful and as powerful as anything you can ever do.
Absolutely.
Creation.
Yeah.
What about you?
I have a lot.
Well, make it simple. You don't got all day.
I mean, I know the beginnings I have done, the hand fasting, the last rites, everything that I have done as a special rite or something has always been meaningful to me, emotional at times too. I've just so many that I can't get into. Maybe sometime later on we can do a podcast about it or something. But yeah, there's just a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got decades worth of experience, and yeah. Just thinking of the ones that I've witnessed that I'm assuming are meaningful to you. There's already a lot. How do you approach spell casting and manifestation? Yeah, I'll go first. Spell casting, like direct spell casting, like where there's words involved or something that I really need to say out loud. I play devil's advocate with myself. I try to figure out who this will affect, and sometimes I'll be honest, I talk myself out of doing spells because I realize they don't need to be done always. And I feel like that, which is hard to say because I personally feel like sometimes I realize that there's certain things I don't need to put my energy towards. And so I write the spell and then I ask myself, does this need to happen? Is this something that I need the universe to give me, or is this something that I can reach out and take? And I also like to think about how it could happen and affect others. Like a lot of us want financial security, but I don't want anyone to be harmed in the way of me obtaining financial security. I don't want to derail anyone else's life. I want us all to reach the same endpoint at the same time or at different times, but the time that is right for us. So sometimes I honestly, it's outside of the planning approach. I would say that I really I try to figure out how it needs to be said and how I cannot affect other people.
Mhm.
And for manifestation, well, to put it simply, so shall I say it, so mote it be. Yeah. What about you, Nico?
So for spell work, I always start with divination. So I will ask, like, if I do a spell with this result, what happens? What are my, what's the influences and the obstacles, and what do I get out of it?
Mhm.
And then create my spell, and then I will, if I'm still conflicted,
Mhm.
excuse me, I will ask my coven members, like Gypsy, the girls, and see, like, am I too far in my head? Is this something that I should be doing? Am I too emotional right now?
Yeah.
I need that conscious filter because as an Aries, I like to jump straight in the deep end sometimes.
Mhm.
And generally, my best advice is to do your divination, wait a couple days. If you still feel like you need to do the work and you're in a rational place, do it.
Yeah.
Accept the consequences that are coming for you and do it.
I would say
Um,
that's the biggest thing is make sure that you're in a rational
mhm,
mindset. Because when we get mad and someone crosses us, we want them to feel the pain that we feel.
mhm,
And we want them to feel it worse. And
mhm,
I feel like sometimes they don't. They don't need to feel that because sometimes it's you. And I hate to say this, but sometimes it's you that needs to get over the pain.
mhm,
And sometimes they don't even realize that they inflicted it or had that effect on you.
mhm,
Um, or like when you hear a lot of people with like the love spells and I want to draw this love to me or this particular person to me, but you never stop and think, what is it about you that they're not drawn to? What is it about maybe you that isn't right for them?
or
Or
you're trying
what,
to.
why aren't the blocks connecting? Why aren't the puzzle pieces connecting?
Mm.
It could be you, it could be them. Sometimes they're not the puzzle piece you need.
Well, I think sometimes that is, well, we have the power to change the world around us and change fate
Mhm.
in a way that there there are consequences for doing things like that, and that
Mhm.
whether you're aware of them or not.
Mhm.
And um, to quote a great show once upon a time, magic has a price, dearie. Can you pay it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's, there's, yeah, the price. And you may not realize it in the moment because, you get blinded by your judgment. You get things get cloudy and your feelings make things cloudy.
Hmm.
And yeah, that kind of did you bite off more than you can chew.
Hmm. And I'll tell you, I have at times.
Mm-hmm.
And then as far as manifestation goes, I do a manifestation bowl. So I have a bowl with crystals that amplify, like Herkimer diamonds, rutilated citrines,
Mm-hmm.
and I write out my petitions on what I want to happen, like they have happened,
Mm-hmm.
and or things that I'm working, like seeds that I'm planting to grow, and I put these in a bowl, and I fill this bowl with salt and lodestones and seeds. And then I will go take my seed packet out of that bowl and I will go physically plant my manifestations as a physical plant and nurture them so that as the plant grows, so does my desire come to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I like to do those. But I'm one of those people where I like to see the physical effects of what I'm asking for, and
Yeah.
I find that that's a really helpful way to do it. Where by tending and taking care of this plant, I'm watching my desires become abundant and fruitful and come into existence.
I like that because it's also you're nurturing the growth.
Hmm.
Yeah. What about you, Amy? What's how do you approach spell casting and manifestation?
Whatever I feel called to do, I just listen to my intuition, and if I feel like it's right, then I do it. But I also meditate on it and I think about it for a day. If I really feel drawn to do it and that I need to do it, then I will. But I also don't do a lot of cursing and hex work. But I'm also the type of person where, like, if someone deserves it, then sometimes you have to put magic in your own hands.
Yeah.
And I don't believe in, like, forcing someone to love you or anything like that. I'm all about self-love and calling love to you
Yeah.
for you to call upon the love that you deserve.
Yeah.
I have a very weird relationship with the concept of like free will within witchcraft, and like there are places where I'm okay pushing free will, and there's okay or times when I circumstances where I don't think that it should be. Like for me personally in my practice, like I'm okay or taking free will from somebody in curse work when it's deserved, but I would never force somebody to love somebody else. Um, because I think that that kind of an unnatural love always warps in ways that you don't want. And when it's not a natural kind of love, it always warps in the worst ways possible.
Yeah.
And even if the person doesn't find out that you did work on it, but like say that they do, like, do you want a relationship with somebody who says, I did a love spell to bend your will for you to fall in love with me? Like, are you gonna stay with that person? Like, that just sounds like such a breach of trust.
This got told to me very young by a teacher of my parents. You do love spell. Decades later, this person wakes up, they look at you and say, I have never been in love with you. I'm not in love with you. I think spells, good things come to an end and something. All good things come to an end at some point. All spells eventually run their course. And I feel like a love spell is one spell that if you truly love someone, you have to be able to let them go.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that advice. You let them go, and if they come back, then maybe it was meant to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
I
you're asking
completely
for it.
agree with that. Like, that's how I look at anything. If someone truly loves you, or if it's truly meant to be with anything in your life, it will come to you and it will be. For manifesting, I just have always been able to do it. It's everything, I've always been known to do it, It's like within my DNA,
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of think of it, and if it happens, it happens. Most of the time it does, but yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like you and Nick have talked a lot about it, so now I'm just like, I agree,
Yeah, and I get it.
I'm just going to be repeating the same thing they say.
Mm-hmm.
So, Amy, what is your thoughts on the concept of the witchy community?
The witchy community? Okay. I have a lot of thoughts on this.
I would say that you have definitely,
I've lived in multiple witchy
you've experienced a
communities.
lot.
I feel like I myself am a loner at heart. So I have a lot of social anxieties and stuff. That's why I'm more solitary and I prefer to do that. And I feel like there's a lot of drama in witchy communities.
Yeah.
So I don't really like to deal with that. So I kind of just do me. But also there's a beauty in it too, because you have that community to lean on and to be there for you. And it's nothing like when you have that big grand ritual and you feel all that energy there, and everybody's holding hands and chanting, and I think it's truly beautiful. But also you can find that beauty within just doing a spell work and
Mhm.
being solitary and doing it yourself and having the same relationship with the goddess there or God, whoever you worship, or if it's just you doing energy work. But also like with Kevin life too, like it's truly beautiful, the sisterhood and the brotherhood and the relationship and the connection you have with people. And it's different in different areas of the country too. Different roles, and people may look at different things differently. Like some people look in that you need to sleep with your high priestess or priest, and you don't have to do that in a lot of communities as well. So also just do your research what kind of community you're going to be in. If it really aligns with you and you really feel like it resonates with you, then do it. But do your research.
Yeah.
You never know what you're really signing up with, what you're really biting onto.
Yeah.
It's like my only advice to people. It's just do your research. And it's okay to say no. No is very powerful. No is like the most powerful spell you can ever say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I am such a people pleaser at heart. And I'm always trying to make people happy, where it kind of like dims my spark, if you know what I mean. So a thing that I've been doing the last few years is saying no. It doesn't help me in any way. If I say yes to this person, I'm unhappy at the end of the day. Say no. And especially in a community, you feel that pressure that you have to say yes, you have to do all this stuff, you have to spend your own money because you don't want to ask other people, and people are like, I can't afford it, and all these other things. Say no. It's not worth your own happiness and to put
You know, and Amy, this while you're talking, one of the things that really it makes me think of some of the greatest advice, and it wasn't even witchy advice that I got. No is a complete sentence.
Yeah.
You don't have to explain it. No means no.
You don't have to explain it. You don't have to have people's consent for that, you know? Your happiness is your happiness, and as long as you're not harming anybody around you or yourself, go for it. Say no. Do something for yourself. It's okay to be selfish.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think like my take on the witchy community, there's a mixture. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. I think a lot of times
it's just the drama for me.
There's a lot of and I'm not really big on a lot of like sayings and stuff that's out there, but like there's a lot of gatekeeping. There's a lot of you can't do this because you're not this.
Yeah, they're trying to like dictate how you do your
before
magic, your craft, and everything, and you're like, I just want to be me.
Everybody wants to put you in a box, and everybody wants to. It seems like it. It feels like everyone wants to put you in a box, and everyone wants to say that you can't pass a certain point until someone gives you permission to. And I feel that you know, you are your own witch. No one needs to tell you or give you permission to experiences or to look into things, or to deal with certain ingredients, or to progress in your path, your journey.
Or Amber, don't you agree? Like for me, like in ritual, me and you are very different people. Like I'm more playful and you're more serious. I'm more like giggling and like, let's have a little fun. And you're like, Amy, come on.
Yeah. No, I still have a very distinct memory of, I think we were teenagers, and I think you found something hilarious during your ritual, and I was very like in the zone of the
I got in so much trouble.
And she giggled, and I still remember probably giving her the sternest look.
She gave me like a death look. I thought I was gonna die within that moment because she's like, I'm about to like.
That was one of those if looks could kill type of moments.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember exactly what we were doing, but it was one of those like I saw it as a very solemn ritual, and then you found something funny and giggled, which is fine because I honestly, now that I've grown in my path, I find that the goddess laughs with us, whether we realize it or not.
Yeah, because I feel like, you know, the goddess wants to see all emotions. You don't have to be serious all the time. You know, you can be playful and giggle and have that moment instead of just being really strict and
Yeah. And it's,
Bridget.
and I find that, the witchy community is also, besides that, there's times where people see it as that progression and you can't take a step forward until someone says you can, which I hate and I get at the same time. I find that there's also people that are, I mean, I hate to say this, but they're like armchair witches. They read and they obtain so much knowledge, but they don't understand the application. And it's like, okay, yeah, you know everything, but do you know how to move the energy out of you? Do you know how to direct it? Do you know how to cast a spell? Do you know how to release it to the universe?
Amber, I think you also had a problem with this too, because we were brought up in the witchy community that when mom and dad was teaching lessons at like a public event, we would be whispering answers to people or like teaching the class ourselves instead of the parents or the teachers or other adults teaching it. And you're like, no, this is not how you do it. This is how you do it. And then the students are listening to you instead of the actual person who's teaching the class. And then you're in trouble because the person told your parents and you're too witchy of a child for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and then another take on the witchy community where there is just a mixed bag of nuts. Sometimes they're great nuts. Sometimes they're amazing. Sometimes you're like, whoa.
Sometimes it's a little bit too nutty.
There's all sorts. There's all types out there.
The great debate of the nuts.
So at times, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Please don't take that out of context. But we're all different. We're all different, and sometimes it's for the better, sometimes it's for the worse. I would say just because someone's a fellow witch does not make them trustworthy, does not make them kind, does not make them safe. On the other hand, sometimes you have to be accepting and let go control and allow people into your life to grow. So it's it's there's so much out there in the witchy community, but there's also so many different resources that didn't exist when I was younger.
Oh yeah, it's so beautiful and
I feel
so
like when I was
amazing.
younger, you had to go to an event or you had to really put yourself out there on like different groups like Yahoo groups and stuff to find other witches, to see each other. And you had to really put yourself out there to meet people. And now you can just get on TikTok and like, boom, there's a witch. Look in the comments, bam, there's a community. Which is also like with our Within the Cauldron group on Facebook, where it was just like we wanted people to be able to gather and learn from each other and meet each other without the pressure like admission.
Yeah, there's no,
Yeah.
It's not a coven. Well, we're in covens. It's not,
Yeah.
it's more of a neutral space. Like we accept all the witches. You can come from any path, be respectful, be kind. We're here to learn from each other. It's not like we're not here to push like coven dynamics on other people because, if you're not a part of my coven, I have no authority over you. Just like vice versa. Like, because you do this in your tradition this way doesn't mean that's how my tradition works. And then you have to like meet each other halfway.
Yeah.
And I agree, there's a lot of issues. There's definitely toxic aspects of the witchy community, like any community. And, there's drama, there's witch wars, there's, somebody's going to steal somebody's man, or vice versa.
Well, and there's also, there's just because we're witches, just because we fall into like maybe a pagan umbrella in ways, doesn't mean we all get along. It doesn't mean some of us are more proper, some of us aren't. Another example is like I'm not big on cussing. I typically don't. I'm a little bit more reserved in that manner, and other people, dropping F-bombs left and right, and that's them, and they don't. There's no difference. But some things that make me uncomfortable don't make others uncomfortable, and vice versa. And it's we're a mixed bag of nuts out there. Now, how would you say, because we kind of touched base on this a little bit, how do you handle skepticism or criticism from others about your witchcraft practice? And I know, Amy, you kind of touched base on this a little bit with you being as traditional.
Mhm.
How do
So
you-
I feel like sorry, my 2-year-old's in the background. Hey, Boba, come here. So hold on one second. I feel like all the kids. Okay. So for
of course, right when I throw it to you.
Nick is not your dad.
No.
Okay, we'll go back to you. We'll go back to you.
Okay, I can answer it real quick. Okay, so I feel like you kind of just at the end of the day, you have to be you and do you and just do what you really want to do.
Hmm.
He's talking about a book now.
We have a guest star.
And everybody's going to dictate how you're going to do your magic and how you need to do things a certain way. But yeah, he's knocking things down. But you have to do what you want to do and not be afraid to be who you are and not afraid to tell people to fuck off.
Yeah,
True.
I think
It's your own magic and be your magic.
Hmm.
the way I handle skepticism and criticism about my practice from others is, I will. This is an answer from another very popular religion out there, but who are you to judge?
Hmm.
Who are you to judge? You are not my creator. You are not the person at the end of the day that I have to answer to. So mind your own business.
Well, that's kind of the beauty of the path is that this is a non-dogmatic spirituality,
Mm-hmm.
and that there is no authority. There are no rules, maybe very little rules, depending on your tradition, and ultimately, the only person you have to answer to is yourself.
Yeah.
And unless you're in a tradition, there may be things that you are allowed to or not allowed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's between you and your coven or your whatever spiritual group you're a part of.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what those are? You signed up for that.
Yeah. I also think that it's everyone, like, they have their teachers, they have their high priest, high priestess. Some do, some don't. But I feel like you have to own your practice. You have to own being a witch. You have to own yourself.
Yeah.
And you just got to realize that this is you, and people can take it or leave it. You don't need someone's permission to live.
Have that confidence within yourself and within your magic to not let others dictate how you perform it and how you do it.
And I mean that takes time, and it depends on the person, obviously, in your own personal struggles. But you just have to own it. Definitely. What's one thing you're looking forward to exploring or learning more about with your witchy journey? Nico, what do you think?
I think so. I'm at the point where I'm kind of focusing on like different cultural practices and witchcraft that exists outside of my own traditions. I'm fairly comfortable within my traditions, but I'm at the comparative stage where I'm comparing other practices to mine and like looking for synergism,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm always looking for ways to expand my own practice. And that's kind of the eclectic point where I'm comfortable in my tradition, so I'm looking at how other systems operate within witchcraft and magic, and how can I add those to my own practice, or and that's all with reverence and respect. And obviously there are close traditions that if I want to move forward with, that I have to go through those initiation processes and make the decision of, is this something that I'm interested enough to initiate into?
Yeah. So I think for mine, one thing I'm looking forward to exploring or learning about within my witchy journey is I'm at a point where I'm focusing on what is not directly labeled as witchcraft or witchy. I'm finding that there's a lot of historical stuff that's out there, things that you associate with other paths, some myths, some lore, stuff like that, or just other historical or religious texts that aren't directly witchcraft related, and I'm finding the hidden truths. That's what I'm focused on. That's what I'm excited about. Now finding the time to really deep dive in that, it's one thing, but I'm looking forward specifically to finding the breadcrumbs and following them. And I think that's where I'm at. I love reading, I love learning, and I think that to truly discover the old ways, you have to allow yourself to be your own to be your own research assistant. You have to start relying on looking around you and finding what's available for you, but deep diving into other things. So that's where I'm at. I'm looking into other things that bring me closer to my path. It's interesting to find things that you didn't think would reinforce your path, but it does. And that's where I'm at. And I love teaching people. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm a teacher, but that seems to be where I keep coming back from. And I love sharing knowledge that I get. So I'm excited to dive into that and then be like, look what I found. Yeah. So I'm excited for that. That's where I'm at right now. Amy, what do you think? What's one thing you're looking forward to exploring or learning about your witchy journey?
Yeah.
There she is.
Everett. Sorry, I have all the kids in here. I feel like one thing I really
you, Dema.
Grandma.
Oh, I'm melting my heart.
Okay, Grandma knows.
Dema.
Grandma.
Dema.
So, yeah, Grandma. I just want to be able to explore different traditions and look into it and soak up all the knowledge I can. That's why I want to go with my craft and to find things that resonate with me and that truly makes me feel magical.
I agree. What about you, Gypsy? I mean, I know that you have been on this journey for quite some time. What is
I have been,
what are you
yes.
looking forward to?
My next, I think what I'm really excited about is see where this would go to, our YouTube channel here. I know we got some guests coming on, and I'm really excited about that. But the thing that I really need to explore more, well, not really explore, but finish is my book. I really need to really concentrate on that. And that's easy said than done, but I will get there. But we do have some comments I think we might be getting behind on.
I think we're, for the most part, cut up, actually. They've been kind of
Yeah, I
scrolling
feel
through.
like we're great with comments right now.
Amber, you are so much more serious. It's funny how different you two are, but when you come together, it's the perfect combination. Yeah, me and Amy, we at times can be two halves of the same coin, but it's when we put our minds in the same direction, it definitely gets interesting. I remember one ritual where we were laughing, even the high priestesses and high priest and high priestess, and Amber looks at all of us like, stop behaving like mom. Yeah. I sometimes I like that structure, and that might be the perfect face to explain it. But yeah. I've grown a little bit since then, in ways. Yeah. Oh, no cussing comes. I know. I've gotten his proper ways have definitely affected me, different ways. Yeah, and it still comes to my mind all the time, even with my children on cussing. Yeah. see. I think we've wrapped up. We've covered all the questions. Was there anything else that we wanted to address, Nico, with the Q&A with the witches?
Not that I can think of. I mean, you guys have now got a little peek into our lives and who we are.
Yeah.
So
I
we can
know.
switch to our after hours. If anybody's got any questions that they want to ask us, you can ask us in the comments there, and
Yeah.
we'll answer to the best of our knowledge.
And Amber, I like that me and you are like very different from each other because I feel like when we first started within the cauldron,
Mhm.
it really like inspired us in a lot of ways because we both just like fed off of each other and had that beautiful energy. And then when we got Nico involved and
Oh yeah. The
and
beautiful
Mom
ingredient
there,
that we
of
didn't
course,
realize we were missing, and then he came out of the woodwork, and they're like, "Oh yes, you've been in front
We're
of
like-
us this whole time."
we're like, our cousin is so cool. That's how we felt. We're like, I hope he shows up again.
Yeah.
I hope he likes us. Like those were all of our internal.
We were like
thoughts.
this little kid that's like, "Look at this sticker that I got."
We're like,
Look at it, it's
our
my cousin.
we were
Isn't
like
he
our
cool?
sparkling new toy, and we're like, I didn't realize how cool Nico was. And then we're like, oh my god, Mom,
Oh
why
yeah,
have you
for
been
those
hiding him?
And his
For
hair
those
is
that
so
don't
full
know.
of secrets.
I was so the girls were unaware that I was practicing for a long time. I think I had popped in. Chrissy did Chatsy years ago, and I popped in
Remember
there
that.
for a little bit, and then just life happened, and I kind of disappeared. I was doing a lot of local stuff, and the girls kind of forgot that I was also a witch. And then Chrissy invited me to join one of the discussions, and they're like, "Wait, our cousin's a witch? There's more
Yeah.
witches? There's more witches in the family? Hell yeah!"
Yeah, no, it was such a beautiful like surprise. Yeah, and I think when it comes to our approach on the discussions, and I hopefully it will come through with this podcast as well. We like to pick off each other. We like to be like, "This is your experience. This is my experience. Where does this lead?" I'm all about the following the breadcrumbs and keep going and diving into exploring and pulling the curtain and seeing what's behind it. And sometimes that's great, sometimes it's not, but it's nice because we're sitting here and we're going like, okay, this is Nico's experience, this is Amy's experience, this is Gypsy's experience, and we all have different approaches, and we're all teachers in our own ways, and so it's interesting. And the one thing that we can all agree on is the need for a witchy community that there's not an admission for. And there's nothing against for charging for services and for knowledge. I do not want to say that. I'm a firm believer that you've worked for this knowledge. You can charge a price and people can decide if they want to pay that. But I also feel like that hinders some people at times. And I think that with the discussions to begin with, and then now with this podcast, there's a lot to say. There's a lot to unpack, and there's so much knowledge to be shared that at times we avoid digging into it because there's those roadblocks, and that we can take one thing out of the equation to further our fellow witches and our practitioners out there. We're glad to do it. Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm excited for the future and to see how this unfolds. And I hope that everyone gets takeaways from it. And if anything, I think the four of us will grow on our paths. Even if we're just talking to each other. Yeah. All right. So I think we can turn it into the after hours. I do. Is there do we have any more add-ins that we want to throw in there before we end the episode?
I was just gonna say, don't be confused.
Oh, yes. Wherever the button is, maybe this down corner.
Subscribe.
And like the video.
Yeah, if you were on Facebook, I thank you for watching there. Our YouTube is Within the Cauldron Glows, and if you want to make your way over there and subscribe, like, leave comments. That's where you will find us. We're trying to share this as many places as we can.
Mhm.
And then, we're on the Facebook group Within the Cauldron, and we have our own TikToks as well.
Mhm.
I'm Crystal Heathen on TikTok. I post witchy content and mental health content. Amy's on there too, under Within the Cauldron, and Gypsy is Mama Cauldron.
Mhm.
And Amber, what is yours?
I don't remember. We'll add that in a future episode. I'm not as active on some platforms. I observe. Yeah. Eventually that will change, but right now that's where I'm at. All right. Well, I think we're at a good stopping point. In the future, we definitely have a lot of goodies up our sleeves for you, and we hope you enjoy them as much as we intend for you to.
Oh, yeah. And thank you, everybody who's been listening, watching, and we look forward to seeing more of you, because without you guys, we can't do this.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Wish you all the best.
Bye. Let's be.
Let's be.